He gave me his luxury car if I could start it. But the hungry old man revealed an amazing truth. Josh wiped the sweat from his brow, looking at the old car parked in front of his small shop. He could hardly believe it. A promise hung in the air, heavy with the weight of possibility. Mr. Thompson, a war veteran with a wild mane of white hair, grinned from ear to ear, challenge gleaming in his eyes. The gathered crowd murmured, could he really do it? Could he bring to life the vintage luxury car that had lain silent for years? It was a shot in the dark for Josh, a young mechanic stuck in the monotony of grease-stained overalls and late-night repairs. Yet a flicker of hope sparked within him, urging him to take the plunge. Josh had spent his childhood surrounded by engines and tools. Late nights at home he'd studied manuals, fueled by dreams of giving his mother a better life. She deserved so much more than the struggles they faced, the tight budgets and trembling hands. So much hope had once danced in her eyes, even as she battled her illness. And now this old car could change everything, a symbol of success dangling, just out of reach. He approached the dusty old vehicle, his heart raced. The engine had been silent for too long. He twisted the key, and the crowd leaned in, breaths caught like butterflies in their throats. He could feel their eyes on him, the weight of their expectations against his frail confidence. He turned the key again and again. Nothing. A heaviness bloomed in his chest. Was this just another dream slipping through his fingers? Then came the voices from the crowd, little shouts of encouragement, reminders that he wasn't alone. You've got this, Josh. Someone yelled, and another shouted, remember your mom's smile. The words flickered like sparks, igniting a fire inside him. With renewed determination, he took a deep breath and turned the key one last time. And there it was. The roar of the engine shattered the night, sending vibrations through the pavement. A wave of triumph washed over him, and cheers erupted from the crowd. Joy surged like an open highway, each face reflecting the lights of his victory. But the old man's face grew somber as excitement faded, shadows settling into the lines of his weathered skin. Congratulations, son, Mr. Thompson said, his voice trembling like the fading echoes of the applause. But that car comes with a heavy weight, overwhelming insurance debts that you'd be responsible for. The triumphant thrill twisted into anxiety, leaving Josh grappling with conflicting feelings. The American dream was standing in front of him, but it wasn't he what it seemed. Should he chase after that shiny ideal or turn his back to protect his fragile family's stability? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of the revelation pressed on him, but the community's support wrapped around him like a warm blanket, muddling emotions and bolstering resolve. Neighbors chimed in with their own tales, weaving a safety net of resilience, and Josh realized this decision would mean more than just him. Here, relationships deepened, forming bonds filled with shared heartache and hope, revealing the truths of their intertwined lives. And as he looked back at Mr. Thompson, the old man's lonely facade began to crack. The empty heart that once yearned for connection now shimmered with the glow of understanding. The question lingered in the air, thick with tension. Would Josh go after the dream that dangled so close, or find the true treasures nestled within his community and family? He stood on the edge of a moment, caught between two worlds, a choice that could alter the path of not just his life, but everyone around him. Josh stood there, the roar of the car's engine still ringing pleasantly in his ears, but now it felt like a distant memory overshadowed by anxiety. Around him, faces glowed with excitement, steadfast in their belief in him, yet his heart thudded heavily against his ribs. The cheers were fading, replaced by the pressing weight of responsibility. Mr. Thompson shifted his stance, the corners of his mouth twitching as if he wanted to smile, but the truth loomed larger than joy. You understand this isn't just about the car, right? He asked, a strange intensity accompanying his words. It's about the choices you make. Are you ready for that? The crowd, sensing the shift, grew quiet, their murmurs muffled whispers of uncertainty. Josh felt like everyone was waiting for his response, every gaze steady and expectant, like they were all pitching in. Not just to start the car, but to launch him into a new life that could mean everything or nothing at all. He looked at the shimmering dashboard of the luxury car, the polished leather, the chrome accents sparkling under flickering streetlights. It was a beauty, no doubt about it. Every mechanic's dream. But then he thought of his mom. Would taking on the debt for this car ever help her? He could already hear her soft voice cutting through the noise of his mind, encouraging him to stay grounded, reminding him of their struggles. "Hey Josh," shouted a familiar voice from the crowd. It was Claire, a friend from the neighborhood, waving frantically. "I know you've got big dreams, but remember what really matters." There was sincerity in her eyes, a spark that resonated with Josh's deepest fear and hope. It was the tether he needed to ground his spiraling thoughts. Taking a deep breath, he turned back to Mr. Thompson. "Are you willing to help me if things go south?" he asked, feeling vulnerable yet strong. Deep inside, he yearned for guidance, something that would let him know he wouldn't be alone in this. The old man's expression softened and he nodded slowly. "This is a lot to take on, Josh. But you're not just taking on a car. You're stepping into a legacy, one that could fray or bloom depending on the choices you make. Enough about the car. What do you really want?" It was a loaded question, and the air grew heavier with meaning. The crowd held its breath, waiting for him to figure it out, and amidst the swirling emotions, clarity flickered to life like the headlights of the car he'd just started. "I want to make my mom proud," he said, finally, voice steady. "I want a future not just for me, but for everyone who believes in me. If it means turning my back on this car, I won't hesitate." As the words left his mouth, a heavy silence washed over the group. Josh had spoken the truth of what his heart really wanted, and suddenly the tension broke like glass shattering. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd, questions mingled with admiration. But Mr. Thompson wasn't deterred. "Then let us make that community flourishing, starting with that car. It doesn't have to break you if we work together." The man's conviction reignited the spark within Josh. He envisioned using the car as a community project, fixing it up together, neighbors gathering, pushing through hard times on shared goals. Could it be possible? "Yeah, let us do it," Josh shouted back, a new fire coursing through him. The crowd erupted in applause once more. But this time it felt different. Now it felt like the start of something monumental. But as the night continued, doubts crept back in. What if he couldn't manage the debts? What if tragedy struck again, pulling him back down? Would he be strong enough to carry this burden alone, even with a community behind him? Little did he know, the car had an even deeper secret hidden under its gleaming hood. As he smiled and waved at the cheering crowd, a feeling crept into his gut, the thrill of possibility mixed with the nagging feeling that this might just be the beginning of far greater trials ahead. And as he stood there, decisions heavy on his heart, the headlights flickered ominously, a subtle reminder that the road ahead was anything but straight. What mysteries still lay waiting untold under that hood? The energy in the air buzzed with excitement as the crowd began to disperse, but Josh could feel a lingering heaviness settling on his shoulders. As the neighbors celebrated, laughter somehow felt a world away from him. He turned towards the car, the contours of the vehicle gleaming under the streetlights like a jewel, each glimmer reflecting a myriad of thoughts dancing chaotically in his mind. His heart raced as he approached the car once more, feeling the smooth metallic surface beneath his fingertips. It was beautiful, that much was clear. But visions of his mother's worn hands, the wrinkles etched deep into her skin from years of hard work, kept flashing in his mind. Was this really what she wanted? He whispered to himself. "Hey!" Claire jogged up beside him, her cheeks flushed from excitement. "You did it. The crowd is pumped up about the project. You've got a lot of people behind you." Her enthusiasm should have comforted him, but instead it ignited a deeper worry. "Yeah, but what if I screw it up? What if it turns into something that costs more than I can handle?" His voice cracked, revealing the cracks in his confidence. Claire tilted her head, searching his face. "You won't do it alone, Josh. Remember what Mr. Thompson said? This is about community." She gestured toward the remaining crowd. "They believe in you, so you need to believe in yourself." Taking a deep breath, he leaned against the car, letting her words wash over him. He wanted to believe her. Yet a nagging doubt whispered that things could spiral beyond easy control. A few moments passed before he noticed Mr. Thompson approaching, a smile finally breaking through the older man's serious demeanor. "You have a unique opportunity ahead of you," he said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "It's a big responsibility but also a beautiful chance for growth. You can't rush this journey." "What do you mean, sir?" Josh asked, genuinely curious. The old man stepped closer. "Have you considered what this car represents? It's not just steel and rubber. It can symbolize hope, teamwork, and new beginnings. But you'll have to unlock its potential. And yours." The words wrapped around Josh like a comforting blanket, igniting his determination. "Okay," Josh said slowly, absorbing the weight of the responsibility, feeling slightly more anchored. "But where do I start?" "Talk to the people. Get their ideas. Let them help you. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from unexpected places." Mr. Thompson nodded toward the crowd, which was now gathering to discuss how they could contribute to the project. Josh felt a spark ignite within him. It was overwhelming in a way, but he could see the potential scattered in excited conversations and bright eyes. The love and support from his community began to reshape his fears into curiosity. What were they capable of working together? As the night deepened, he watched more people approach and share their thoughts, young kids offering to help wash the car, elders sharing screws and lights from their own collections. The car began to feel less like a burden and more like a vessel of unity. He felt his heart swell. This was something greater than himself. Yet, just as clarity struck, another worry hit him like a wave crashing against the shore. What if, beneath all this hope and promise, lay more secrets? What if the car held something that would change everything for him and his community? Just as he prepared to voice this thought, the headlights flickered again, casting an eerie glow that illuminated the whispers of doubt creeping back in. What had they uncovered together? And what was still hidden? With that thought swirling in his mind, he looked up at Claire and the crowd, feeling the weight of their expectations on him. Could he navigate this road ahead? Or would it lead them to unexpected danger? "Let us take the first step, shall we?" he said finally, voice filled with renewed spirit. Unbeknownst to him, the truth waiting beneath that shiny surface was about to surface, and it was more profound than anyone could imagine. As the crowd continued to buzz with excitement, Josh felt a warmth spreading through him. The energy around him was shifting, and it was as if he could feel the pulse of hope beating in the air. He glanced at the car, its shimmering surface now a canvas painted with dreams and aspirations, not just his, but those of everyone gathered. "Let us take the first step," he repeated, feeling a surge of determination. He turned towards Claire, who was still smiling. "I think I need to hear their ideas. All of them." Claire grinned wider, and an almost contagious enthusiasm rippled through the group like a wave. "Okay, let us gather everyone. I'll get the kids." With that, she took off, leaving Josh to gather his thoughts as people trickled back over. He stood at the edge of the parking lot, hands resting on the car's hood. The older neighbors, who he'd always seen as staunch and serious, approached with their own sets of tools, their eyes twinkling with mischief. One elder in particular, Mrs. Ellison, a sprightly woman with silver hair tied into a bun, scooted forward. "Young man," she said, her voice crackling with fervor, "what we need here is not just a car but a community garage. A place for us to gather. We've got a lot of old parts that could keep her running and plenty of stories to share." "Hear, hear," shouted Mr. Hargrove, a wiry man with an affinity for rusty cars. "We've all got something to offer. I've been fixing engines since before you were born. Might even whip this beauty into shape." As they spoke, Josh began to feel a sense of purpose bloom within him. What if they turned this car into something bigger, something that would pull the whole community together? His excitement was interrupted by the sudden glare of headlights from a passing car. The driver, an unfamiliar face, slowed down and leaned out of the window, curiosity evident in her expression. "What is happening here?" she called out. "This is our project," Claire piped up, running back with a group of children bouncing behind her. "We're turning this old car into a community hub. Sounds interesting." The woman nodded, a glimmer of intrigue lighting her eyes. She parked her car and stepped out, a clipboard in hand. "I'm a journalist from the local paper. Mind if I take some notes?" Before Josh could respond, Claire jumped in eagerly. "Of course. We do love your help." The woman's questions were a flurry of excitement. As they talked, Josh marveled at how quickly this idea was snowballing. He could see how it wasn't just about fixing a car. It was about creating a legacy, a tapestry woven from the stories and experiences of everyone in the neighborhood. Yet, in the midst of this growing hope, the nagging uncertainty re-emerged. As Josh listened to the laughter and chatter, a tightening in his stomach reminded him that secrets still lurked beneath the surface. What if he started hesitating? What if this car has history we don't know about? What if it leads us somewhere we aren't ready to go? Mrs. Ellison placed a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Sometimes, child, history reveals itself when you invite it into the light. Let the community shine. Her words lingered, echoing softly like an invitation. The crowd began to form smaller groups, buzzing with creativity and suggestions, but Josh's eyes drifted toward the shadows cast by the flickering streetlights. What would they uncover together? Would it be something that would uplift them, or would it threaten to unravel their hopes? Just as he began to lose himself in these thoughts, he heard the sound of metal scraping against metal. The car's hood creaked slightly as if the past was stirring beneath the shiny exterior. What was that? Someone whispered, prompting the crowd to fall silent, and as they all looked towards the car, he felt his heart race again. What could that noise mean? What if they were standing on the edge of something remarkable? Or worse, a path they were not prepared to take? The night was thick with anticipation, and as the crowd collectively held their breath, Josh couldn't shake the feeling that destiny was right around the corner, about to unveil its truth. Would they be ready for whatever awaited them? A chilling breeze swept through the parking lot, mingling with the tension in the air. The crowd leaned in, eyes wide with curiosity. Josh's heart raced as he stepped closer to the car, its metallic skin gleaming under the streetlights. What was that? He repeated softly, half expecting an answer. Mrs. Ellison exchanged a glance with Mr. Hargrove, who raised an eyebrow, intrigued. The children giggled, unaware of the profound moment unfolding around them. Yet, there was an unspoken agreement amongst the adults. The car was like a sleeping giant, and the slightest noise was an echo of stories waiting to be told. Josh gently pressed his hand against the hood. It felt warm, pulsating with a strange energy that seemed to resonate with the hopes of those standing nearby. Maybe we should have a look inside? He suggested, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. As he opened the door, a rush of stale air escaped, mingling with the crisp night. The interior was surprisingly well kept. Josh noticed a dusty old map tucked between the seats, its edges frayed. He pulled it out, squinting at the faded markings. This is a map of the neighborhood, he exclaimed, excitement igniting in his voice. Claire, still nearby with the kids, rushed closer. What does it say? Is it special? Josh traced the contours with his finger, feeling a connection deepen within him. I think it shows places where people have stories. Look here, the old oak tree by the park. That's where they used to hold summer fairs. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Stories flooded back, picnics, laughter, faces filled with joy. Excitement sparked among the gathered neighbors, igniting memories long tucked away. Mrs. Ellison leaned forward. If we had a way to gather all these stories, we could connect our past with this future we're building. Her voice quavered with emotion, her eyes glistening. But how do we do that? Josh countered, glancing around at the animated faces. We share them. Claire jumped in enthusiastically. Let us plan a storytelling night. Everyone can bring their tales and we can record them. The idea mobilized the crowd, and soon voices were rising in agreement, ideas flowing like a river. The parking lot became a brainstorming hub, vibrant and alive, filled with the laughter of children and the enthusiastic chatter of adults. In the midst of this, Josh took a step back, a bittersweet smile tugging at his lips. This was what he had wanted, a spark of community, of connection. Yet uncertainty still gnawed at him. But what about the car's history? What if there is something hidden in its past we need to know? Mr. Hargrove placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Sometimes you have to dive into the unknown to find the treasure. Josh swallowed hard, feeling the weight of those words. The laughter and excitement enveloped him, yet a knot tightened in his stomach as he contemplated the depth of their endeavor. Just then, the journalist reappeared, her clipboard clutched close. I'd love to write about this. Imagine it, how a forgotten car brings a community together. But she hesitated, a glint of caution in her eyes. Do you really think everyone is ready for the stories that might surface? That question hung in the air like a storm cloud. Would the tales be joyful, or would they unravel something deep and dark in their past? As the crowd buzzed with the promise of stories to come, Josh couldn't shake the feeling that uncovering the truth behind the car meant stepping into uncharted territory. The night echoed with laughter and ideas, but the shadows loomed in the corners of their excitement. Feelings of hope mingled with uncertainty, and Josh found himself at a crossroads. What secrets would rise as they revived the tales held within that old car? And were they prepared to face what those stories might reveal? The following day, the sun beamed brightly across the neighborhood, washing away the remnants of last night's unease. Josh found himself back at the parking lot early, the cool morning air filled with the scent of fresh coffee from a nearby food truck. He hoped the early start would give him a chance to think. The map lay in his backpack, heavy with potential stories yet unheard. Its corners crinkled under the weight of his thoughts, frustrating and thrilling all at once. As neighbors began to arrive, laughter and chatter filled the air, drawing Josh from his spiraling mind. He watched as Claire wrangled the kids, their tiny voices giggling like sparrows flitting from branch to branch. It warmed his heart to see the start of something beautiful. "Josh!" Claire's voice called out, breaking his reverie. She was waving, and he noticed her face aglow with excitement. "People are coming together. We have to set up the chairs." He nodded, but his stomach twisted. He was apprehensive about this storytelling night. Was it too ambitious? Would they truly be ready to share their hidden histories? As chairs were organized into a circle, the crowd swelled with families and individuals. Neighbors exchanged pleasantries and laughter, a warm tapestry of community fabric knitting together. Mrs. Ellison approached Josh, smiling broadly. "I've been thinking, what if we start with the history of the car itself? It might break the ice for everyone." Josh hesitated, the knot in his stomach tightening further. But what if there's something there, something we're not ready to face? She placed a gentle hand on his arm, her eyes steady. "Daniel the mechanic might know. He's been around for years and has stories about this neighborhood that would surprise you." A flicker of hope ignited within him. Perhaps Daniel could help solidify their storytelling night and set the tone without diving right into the deep end. Josh nodded appreciatively, resolving to talk to Daniel once the gathered crowd settled down. Once everyone was in place, Claire stepped up to a makeshift podium crafted from a sturdy crate. "Welcome everyone," she shouted, her voice ringing out like a bell. "Tonight, we come together to celebrate our community through stories." Applause erupted, filling the air with encouragement. Josh gazed around at the hopeful faces and felt a rush of purpose. Maybe they could do this. Maybe these stories, both joyful and painful, could stitch the fabric of their community even tighter. Just as the first tale was shared, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the parking lot. It was Daniel, his gray hair glimmering in the late afternoon sun. He hesitated for a moment, scanning the crowd, then approached with an air of quiet authority. "Mind if I share something?" he asked, his voice gravelly yet warm. The crowd turned to face him, anticipation buzzing like electricity. "That car has been part of our neighborhood's heartbeat. It represents more than just metal. It holds memories, struggles, losses." His gaze drifted to Josh, locking eyes. "And sometimes it reveals a truth." A ripple of silence ran through the gathering. What truth was he referring to? The air thickened with curiosity. "Many years ago, he started," his voice faltering momentarily. The crowd leaned in. Josh's heart raced. Everyone was on the edge of their seats, riveted to the moment Daniel had chosen to unveil. Would this reveal bring them closer together, or unleash something they were not prepared for? As the shadows began to stretch into the twilight, Josh felt the weight of history pressing down on him. What would emerge from Daniel's words? Would their celebration of community uncover deeper emotions than they had anticipated? By the time Daniel paused, a collective breath held in suspense, the night hung in the balance. What was about to surface, and would they be ready to bear it together? Daniel cleared his throat, a gravelly sound that caught everyone's attention. The twilight air felt thicker, charged with unspoken questions and potential revelations. Josh could almost hear the soft rustle of leaves, as if the trees themselves were straining to listen. "I remember the day I saw that car for the first time," Daniel began, his eyes shimmering with a pathos that drew the crowd closer. It was parked on the side of Main Street, all shiny and bright. He chuckled softly, remembering the moment. A luxury car may be too fancy for our neighborhood, but it caught my eye. As Daniel spoke, whispers of curiosity rippled through the crowd. They were encouraged by the images he painted, faraway memories coming to life. Josh glanced at Claire and saw her nodding, warmly engaged. I approached the owner, Daniel continued. An elderly gentleman, barely able to walk. His face was etched with stories of his own. He said to me, "If you can start this car, it's yours." Like a challenge. Laughter erupted at this, lightening the mood before Daniel plunged deeper into his story. I was just a kid, maybe 12. But I loved cars. I knelt down, fiddling with the wires, heart pounding. After a few tries, the engine roared to life. The old man's face lit up like the sun, and he hollered with delight. It was more than just a car. It was a metaphor, a bridge between generations. Josh felt his heart race at this turn. Hope flickered in the air. Daniel continued, his voice steady and commanding. He handed me the keys and said, "Never forget the value of what you have. Some people might want to drive it, but not everyone understands its worth." The weight of those words sent chills down Josh's spine. He thought of his own hesitations about hosting this night. What if they were unearthing old pains that were better left buried? What if stories unraveled instead of stitched together? A few murmurs of acknowledgement came from the audience, connecting with Daniel's tale. Eyes across the circle shimmered with unspoken truths, likely stirred by the memories of their own pasts. I took that car for a spin, of course, like a kid with a new toy. But soon it broke down. I tried everything I could to fix it, but it sat in my driveway, a husk of potential, he sighed, his expression growing somber. That is, until I realized the car was never just an object. It was a representation of history, a reminder of dreams unfulfilled, of moments lost. Daniel glanced around the crowd, allowing the gravity of his words to settle in their faces, reflecting back the weight of history. A collective inhalation reverberated, as if the group was suddenly confronted with their own experiences, their own silent desires and longings. Josh felt tears prick the corners of his eyes. Could this be the moment they all needed? Would telling their stories unleash fears yet transform them into something healing? Finally, Daniel concluded, and tonight, as we share our own stories, I hope we remember that what we uncover can either haunt us or set us free. It's our choice. The silence that followed was ripe with reflection. For a moment, every individual in the circle was lost in thought. What haunts them? What can they transform? As the stars emerged overhead, illuminating the parking lot, Josh felt an impulse surge within him. Perhaps he should be next, stepping into that circle of vulnerability. But bits of doubt whispered in his mind. Could he find the courage to share his hidden truth? The night held promises. What stories would emerge? Who would seize the moment? And would it be enough to knit their lives together? With hearts pounding and eyes glistening in the twilight, they all waited. Would Daniel's words ignite them to share? Or would fear hold them back? The stillness hung in the air as everyone waited for someone to take the plunge. It was as if the night itself was holding its breath, listening for the first brave soul to break the silence. Josh could feel the weight of the moment pressing against his chest, a mix of anxiety and longing swirling inside him. He glanced at Claire again, her eyes bright with anticipation. Daniel's story had woven a thread of nostalgia that sparked something deep within the group. One by one, they were stepping beyond the boundaries of their own fears. Josh swallowed hard, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks. Maybe it was his turn. Suddenly Sarah, a neighbor he hadn't spoken to much, stood up. Her voice was shaky at first, but as she found her rhythm it gained strength. "I lived in a house filled with secrets," she began, her gaze steady before flicking between faces. "My mother, she always told us to keep things under wraps, to be perfect. But one day I found a box in the attic. It had letters, old photographs. They told a different story, her real story." The crowd leaned in closer, enveloped by her words. Sarah's eyes sparkled with the memory. "I discovered that my mom wasn't just this unyielding figure. She was a woman who had loved deeply and lost profoundly. That box changed everything for me. It made me realize we all have layers. We can paint perfect pictures, but what about the sketches underneath?" A wave of murmurs broke through the crowd, threads of understanding weaving through them. Josh's heart began to race as he considered the stories hidden in his own life. I always thought my dad was my hero. He remembered, a lump forming in his throat. But when I got older, I found out he struggled financially for years, hiding bills instead of asking for help. He hesitated, the shame of vulnerability clinging to him, even as he felt a pull to continue. I thought he had it all figured out. But he was scared, just like the rest of us. His voice broke, and he struggled to contain the weight of his emotions. Around him eyes glistened, reflections of his own heartache spilling over into the openness of the night. As Josh spoke, he noticed Daniel watching him, pride swelling in those familiar eyes. Encouraged by this silent support, he took a deep breath and pushed out the rest. I think we all hide parts of ourselves. We want to look strong, to fit into whatever mold is out there. But maybe, just maybe, it's the cracks that let the light in. Before he could second-guess himself, Josh sat down, heart racing, but with a strange sense of relief washing over him. He had crossed a line he never thought he could, daring to share his vulnerabilities. The air crackled again as Claire stood up, hesitation too evident across her face. Yet something in the space seemed to pull her forward. "I've got something to say." She took another step closer, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the edges of the circle. A few gasps escaped the crowd, tension thickening the air. Was she prepared to unveil her own hidden truth? And just as that thought settled, the night sparkled with new possibilities, urging them all to dive deeper. What would Claire reveal? What other hidden stories lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to shine? Claire's voice wavered at first, like a candle flickering in a draft, but it soon steadied, revealing a strength that seemed to resonate with everyone listening. "I grew up in a privileged household," she started, her brow knitted as if trying to find the right words. On the surface, everything looked perfect, but beneath it all there was chaos. My parents fought constantly. They presented a beautiful family portrait to the world, but behind closed doors it was different. It was dark. The crowd shifted, drawn in, eager to hear her deeper truth. She took a breath, and the tension grew thicker with each passing second. "I thought if I just stayed quiet, hid my own emotions, maybe it would all resolve itself. So I wore a mask. Every time my friends would compliment my family, I would just smile and agree. But inside it felt like an endless storm." Claire paused, biting her lip as if recalling a distant pain. "Then one evening I overheard a conversation. My mother was on the phone, and I could hear her voice, strained and weary. She didn't want the life we had, she was scared. I realized then that my perception of our life was so distorted. The truth was unraveling and I was terrified." As her words hung in the air, Josh felt a connection to her struggle, a synchronicity with the protective shells they both wore. He felt a rush of solidarity. Around him, nods emerged, whispers of recognition coursing through the group. Claire continued, her confidence gaining momentum. "When I finally confronted her, it turned into an unexpected moment of vulnerability. And she told me something I'll hold on to forever. It's okay to let the storm rage, Claire. Just find your own voice and let it guide you." Tears shimmered in her eyes, and it struck Josh how beautiful that moment must have been. A revelation, a moment of clarity, and a path toward authenticity. As she finished, the crowd erupted in applause. Claire looked relieved, a soft smile replacing the tension that had been there moments before. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders, and everyone around felt a little lighter too. "What you just shared, it matters," Daniel spoke, breaking the lingering silence, his voice filled with admiration. "It's brave to show the world your truth, even the messy parts." Josh, caught up in the wave of shared experiences, caught Claire's eye, holding her gaze for a heartbeat longer. She smiled in response, and he felt a warmth spreading through him, a silent promise of connection that went deeper than words. Then, laughter erupted from the back of the group. Older Mr. Thompson, a wiry man who had remained quiet until now, raised a hand. "If I had $1 for every time I put on a smile to hide something, I'd be richer than Bill Gates." He chuckled. A ripple of laughter followed. "All right, fine," Josh jumped in, feeling emboldened. "What's your story, Mr. Thompson?" "Oh boy," the elderly man chuckled, an old twinkle appearing in his eyes. "Well, there's nothing pretty in it, but it's how I learned the value of honesty. It all starts with a luxury car and a hungry old man." "What does that mean?" Claire asked, intrigue brimming in her voice. "I'll tell you," he said. leaning forward as the group collectively slid closer, each waiting to hear his tale. The anticipation crackled anew, promising that Mr. Thompson's revelation would take them all somewhere unexpected. What secret would unravel from his story? The group leaned in, the night growing darker but their hearts ignited with curiosity and waiting truths. As Mr. Thompson settled into his story, the parking lot buzzed with anticipation. Years back I had a beautiful car, he began, his voice rich with memories. A dream I worked hard for. I thought it would bring me happiness, respect. But it came with costs, money, maintenance, time. Then one day, with bills stacking up, I faced the hard choice. Keep the luxury or let go. The crowd listened, captivated. I chose to sell it, he continued, but it was harder than I thought. That car had been my pride, my escape. I told everyone I was thrilled with my decision, that I was ready to move on. But deep down I was as hungry as an old dog waiting for scraps. I missed the thrill it brought me. Josh could feel the weight of Thompson's words. Emotions flitted through the crowd, recognition, sympathy, and perhaps a spark of understanding. Then the old man said, voice growing stronger, came the day I lost my job. Everything crumbled in front of me. I was in a dark hole, a mix of despair and shame. The car's absence echoed louder than I expected. In that void I learned something profound. What was it? Claire asked, her curiosity piqued. Being true to oneself means acknowledging the storms, not hiding from them. I wasn't hungry for the car. I was hungry for validation. His eyes twinkled as he scanned the crowd. It took a community to lift me up, to teach me that true wealth isn't in vehicles or luxury. It's in love, laughter, and shared experiences. The truth hung like a light in the air. Josh felt a swell within him. The weight of stories shared, of truths named, brought them all together in profound ways. He found his voice rising above the rustling murmurs. So this car isn't just a burden. It's also an opportunity, like a canvas for our community. Yes, Claire called out, enthusiasm beaming in her eyes. We can turn old and forgotten into something precious. Together. The crowd cheered in agreement, a chorus of hopeful dreams echoing around that parking lot. The night was alive, thick with the promise of what could come next. One by one more neighbors stepped forward, sharing their truths, some light and joyous, others bittersweet and heavy. Each story loaded with not just words but years of love and courage. Josh felt the energy shift again, a warmth that spread like a ripple through the crowd, igniting connections hidden beneath layers of time. Vulnerability filled the air, each story threading them tighter as a community. Amidst the laughter and heartfelt revelations, Josh's heart soared. It was no longer about fear or underlying debts. It was about embracing the past to build a future. This car didn't have to be a burden. Together they could give it life and restore memories. As the stories intertwined, Josh glanced back at Mr. Thompson, who beamed with pride. How does it feel, son? The old man asked, his voice low. It feels amazing, Josh replied, beaming back, overwhelmed with gratitude. Then came Claire's soft voice beside him. We're going to make this work, right? As a family? Absolutely, Josh assured, a radiant smile framing his excitement. The night pressed on, stories weaving history with hope, as the community committed to revival, from the little kids lending their creativity to the elders sharing their expertise. They were ready to work. The narrative of the old car evolving beyond metal, it would become a shared mission instead of a personal burden. Josh caught a reflective glimmer in Mr. Thompson's eye, and in that moment, he knew that both their journeys had intertwined at destiny's doorstep. They would chase dreams not in isolation, but as a united front of resilient spirits. As night surrendered to dawn, the crowd began dispersing, leaving behind the whispers of inspiration and the thrill of new beginnings. And that's when Josh turned to face the old vintage car one last time under the first light of morning. Hope surged in his chest, and he couldn't shake the feeling that amazing adventures lay just around the corner. A transformation rooted deeply in love and community, ready to exhaust every shadow they uncovered. Finally, as he took a deep breath, something unfurling within him, he understood one final truth. The journey would not be easy, but it would be worthwhile. A wave of emotion washed over him, a new focus shaping into clarity. In the distance, the shadows began to dissolve, replaced by the warmth of hope, and as the sun rose on a new day filled with promise, Josh spread his arms wide and called out to the fading warmth of the crowd, Let us rev this engine together. The community erupted in cheers one last time. A triumphant shout echoing into the sky, a sweet song that would carry their hearts and stories forward, bound by the rhythms of thoughts shared and connections made. This was only the beginning, a legacy in the making. And now, if you don't want to miss a single moment of these thrilling stories, you need to subscribe immediately. Hit that bell, mark all notifications, and follow the journey to come. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, reminding us all of the importance of sharing hope. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible transformation, because your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey. Only true fans understand the heart behind these stories. Together, we'll create a family of inspiration.